So now that I have played an unhealthy amount of Battlefield 1, I feel like I have enough experience to finally make this video. I think I've played like 30 hours over the past 2 days. It's seriously, unhealthy amounts of Battlefield 1. And for anybody watching this video months after I put this up, we are going to be talking about this after the beta. Now, I haven't played the full released game, but we're talking about this from a version of the game only a month out from release. So if this isn't a pretty good indicator of what the game is going to play like, I really don't know what is. However, another thing that I want to make sure that's really clear is just because I make a video called The Hard Truth About Something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It's just my honest perspective, and an emphasis on my honest perspective. There are subjective things about anything like this. Some people like just different kinds of games, and I just like to talk about how I feel about something without sugarcoating it, without really just doing anything to censor myself, even if I'm wrong. There are some things that aren't even subjective. Maybe I haven't played this long enough. Maybe somebody else out there has a better understanding of certain game mechanics and stuff like that. But from an average gamer player's standpoint, this is my opinion. So, with all that out of the way, let's just get right into it. Battlefield 1. Now, I will say, this actually turned out to be considerably different than I thought it was going to be. Considerably. And I will say it is considerably different in a lot of ways that I like a lot. In fact, I think it's kind of hilarious because I think that a lot of the things that I normally complain about with Battlefield have been more or less solved with this iteration. Now, the irony in this is that I think a lot of people are going to be unhappy because if I like a Battlefield game, that's probably not a good thing because the kinds of games that I like are not Battlefield at all. I play Project Reality, I play Arma. I was not a big fan of Battlefield 4. I wasn't even a big fan of Battlefield 3. I was a big fan of 1942 and of course Battlefield 2 and all of its modifications. And I think that this plays considerably more similar to other games that are not Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. For me, that's a great thing. I love that. For people who came into this series, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, I feel like they're going to have a lot of problems. I think they're probably going to describe this game as campy, and I think they're going to say certain things are overpowered, whereas I see it as campy. I would describe as strategic, and things that are overpowered, such as the tanks, I would say that has a better emphasis on teamwork and a focus on certain assets being used to do certain things that they're really good at, but they still require the support of other teammates using, for instance, infantry kits that may not be as quote-unquote powerful, but still necessary. I don't really see eye to eye with these things. I think Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 players, they just want everyone to be the same. The tanks, the infantry, the planes, everything has to be on even ground. Nothing should give you an advantage. I've never really liked that. So let's actually specifically talk about that. Let's talk about the balance and why I like the balance and why I don't think other people are going to like the balance. In previous Battlefield games, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, it did feel like that. It didn't feel like it mattered what you did. You could be in a plane, you could be in a tank, you could be in a car, you could be on the ground. You're just going to die. You're going to die no matter what you do. The tanks didn't really feel like they pushed a front line or they really did anything other than just maybe letting you be a little bit more of a badass for a couple seconds. But the point is in a tank, you were considerably less maneuverable. All the other infantry had things that were anti-tank. They could kill you so easily that it almost made anything that you tried to use just negligible. Like, there was no point. As far as the infantry gameplay, the infantry had FLIR sights, they have anti-tank guns, they have guided anti-tank missiles. They were like, the infantry in Battlefield 3 were like F-35s on legs. They really were. And in Battlefield 1, a lot of that changes. The armor in Battlefield 1 feels like a major player. But the cool thing about this is that with the armor being such a central aspect to Battlefield 1, the infantry really need to rally behind it and push it, and whoever's controlling the armor really controls that front line. That's really awesome to me. I really think that's great. In Battlefield 1, it really does feel like there's more of a... I guess what's the word? I don't want to use the word balance. It's as if different roles complement one another more. It's as opposed to everything being just as good as one another, everything seems much more specialized. There's reasons to be in a horse for certain situations and not other situations. There's a reason to be in a tank for certain situations and other situations. There's a reason to be infantry in certain situations and not other situations. I love that. I actually like that a lot. Now, let's move on to something that really has a big impact on this, which is the game modes. There are two game modes that I played in Battlefield 1. There was Rush, and then there was Conquest. Now, after playing for the first couple of hours, I pretty much exclusively started playing Rush. Rush in Battlefield 1 is where it's at. Rush feels like... Seriously, let me pause this video for a second. Rush feels like it was built for this game. I have not liked Rush at all in all of the previous Battlefield games. I didn't like it in Bad Company. I didn't like it in Battlefield 3. I didn't like it in Battlefield 4. Rush felt spammy. It felt obnoxious. It just felt like a shittier version of Conquest, where just everything was just more focused and chaotic, and it was harder to flank around or get any piece. It's just like it was hard to get anybody to just stay away from, because the combat was so concentrated. You just died constantly. However, Rush in Battlefield 1, my God, it feels like it was built for this game. The tanks feel like they push a front line. In fact, the fact that this is a World War I game is really interesting, because I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but if there was ever a game mode that makes you feel like you're actually engaging, maybe not necessarily in trench warfare, but you have a front line that you're pushing in a World War I style game mode, that's what this is. That's what Rush is. Rush feels perfect for this game. Now, Conquest, on the other hand, I was not a big fan of Conquest. In fact, I think if Battlefield 1 only had Conquest, I would be very disappointed. Now, the frustrating thing is that in Conquest, at least in the beta, you have 64 players in Conquest, and you have 24 players in Rush. That's kind of annoying. In Rush, even though the game mode itself feels so much better, and it feels so much more appropriate for the game, it feels like it's kind of nerfed down. There's not aircraft in Rush, at least not in the version I played. You don't get to play the entire map in Rush. Rush is using the same map from Conquest, but you even pushing up through the entirety of the game mode, you only get to play a fraction of the area that you would be able to play in Conquest, even with all the flag caps taken into consideration, or all of the objectives. And that was kind of frustrating to me. There wasn't a train in Rush. You didn't get to use the armored train. It was just, even though it felt so much better and it was so much more fun to play, and Rush is Battlefield 1, as far as I'm concerned. Rush is Battlefield 1. It's like they took everything out that was fun. Now, granted, maybe that's one of the reasons Rush felt so much better. You know, you didn't have an armored train just being obnoxious, and you didn't have an aircraft constantly like bombing stuff. Maybe that's why the front line felt so much better, is because there weren't other vehicles and stuff to potentially unbalance it. But honestly, I don't think that was the case. I think you could have done those things. I think you could have put in an aircraft and stuff like that, and it would have been just fine. I don't know why they didn't. I honestly think you probably could have had 64 players in this, and it would have been just fine. It would have been just fine. Rush is incredible, and it's a shame that they kind of knocked that down a notch. Anyways, let's keep playing this. So the armor and the vehicle balance is fantastic. The Rush game mode is fantastic. Even when I was playing in Conquest, things like the aircraft, the aircraft are actually really fun. Granted, I actually like the aircraft in Battlefield 4. In some ways, I feel like kind of the aircraft gameplay is a completely different world, because the aircraft never seem like they have that much of an impact on the objectives. So whenever you play as aircraft, it feels like you're playing a completely different game that has like no impact. But maybe that's just because I don't play aircraft right. But they felt really fun. The aircraft were really fun to play. Also, the game just looks beautiful, but every Battlefield 1 game looks beautiful. But in this case, I enjoy Battlefield 1 looking this beautiful more, especially since the gameplay is satisfying. It's not just getting, I can actually sit there and take it all in and enjoy it instead of just getting annoyed by the fact that I'm getting like curb stomped every 5 seconds. So those are all the things that I liked the most about Battlefield 1. Now, with that said, I do think that there are some potential issues with Battlefield 1. The first issue is when you're playing infantry. Let me see if I can find any infantry gameplay, because I primarily played as the tanks. There's the bomber gameplay, which was actually really fun. There we go. Playing as infantry, there is almost no reason to play as any other class than sniper. And then, of course, also being able to vault on things for some reason is like super broken in this version. Don't know why. But playing as the scout class, it almost feels like a default class. It feels like there's so many people playing sniper. You can see it when you join a game. It's like every single time, like 70% of the players are playing scout, and that's because scout just it feels like the standard class. It's the most effective class. It's the only class that has a scope. The scope is a really big game changer for a Battlefield 1 game, just because nobody else has scopes. Even being bolt action, you can accomplish so much more with that scope. In Battlefield 3 and 4, in fact, the funny thing is I almost don't even have a problem with this, because since nobody has a scope, I think that might be one of the biggest reasons that the infantry combat and the front line per se feels so satisfying to me. Like, it actually feels like there's a front line. People aren't just like running out in the open, because they'll just get killed immediately. And I think the reason of that is because not everybody has FLIR scopes. Not everybody has all of these F-35 on leg weapons, and instead everybody has bolt action. And you have heavy machine guns, you have submachine guns, and you have classes for those. You have support, you have assault, or whatever it's called. And those classes are ideal in urban environments. So for instance, if you're playing Rush, you should pretty much only play sniper for the first, I don't know, say 3 objectives. And then as soon as you get to the urban environment, everybody should switch over to, maybe not everybody, but it would make a lot of sense for everybody to switch over to machine guns and submachine guns. I mean, you can see that here when I start playing and I just start getting slaughtered playing scout in urban environments. That in a way is kind of nice. The fact that you have role specialization, where in the open areas it makes more sense for everybody to go sniper, in the urban areas it makes more sense for everybody to go submachine gun, machine gun. The only thing I'm worried about is I'm starting to wonder this whole frontline aspect. The fact that the frontline is really satisfying to me, especially in Rush. Maybe not so much in Conquest. In fact, pretty much not at all in Conquest. Well, kind of. But I'm starting to worry that maybe the map design with this game, with the way the assets are made, with the way the infantry are balanced and all that stuff, I feel like map design is going to have a considerably higher impact on gameplay than ever before. For instance, in this open area, horses are king. There's no cover. The horses are able to maneuver quickly, so infantry just get mowed down really, really quick. The tanks are too slow, and they're too out in the open, so they're easily destroyed by static emplacements. This is kind of like a no man's land, and the horses reign king here. And in other parts of the map, for instance, the There's a horse that just killed me. In the open areas in Rush where you're attacking the first objective, snipers reign king there because it's open, but there's still lots of cover. You're not really going to get very far with a machine gun, but the sniper, the scout class, is going to give you an obscene advantage. Then when you get to the urban environment, assault class is king, and that's really cool. I do like that. But it makes me afraid. Is this map feels really, really good. This map feels really, really balanced. This map feels like there's a lot of specialization, and the front line feels really, really satisfying. But if that doesn't carry over, I mean, we haven't seen very many maps yet. I haven't played very many maps yet. If this is the best designed maps, and then all of the other maps are just filler, that's going to be kind of a problem. In fact, it's kind of... when I compare this to something like, say, Project Reality, I like Project Reality because with Project Reality, you can pretty much have any map, and the weapon balance and the character balance and the vehicle balance is so good that it just feels fun. It doesn't matter what map you're playing on, it just feels really fun. It feels really well designed, where it just... yeah, you enjoy pretty much any... It just feels new and interesting. Whereas... Or more specifically, I should say that it never feels frustrating. It never feels like cheap. In Project Reality, there's never an instance where you're like, oh man, this certain asset has a certain, like, an unfair advantage in this certain area. Like, it feels very well balanced. Whereas in Battlefield 1, I have a feeling like if they start getting to the point where they start pumping out DLC... and the maps in the DLC aren't that great because everybody's already bought the game, and their mappers don't really start putting as much attention to detail into making really well balanced maps for how their game is designed. I could see that being an issue, because in Battlefield 4 there's a couple good maps, but in the DLC it's like the maps just start getting worse. They start getting more cramped, they start getting less diversified. And in a game like Battlefield 4, where I guess everybody's kind of equal anyways, and it's not really going to make that big of a difference, it's not that big of a deal. But in Battlefield 1, where the balance is so completely different and all of these different classes complement each other, especially depending on the terrain, if you get lazy map design down the road, that could really kill the experience for some people, especially when you have the lack of mod support and the lack of community. Like, seriously, you're putting the keys in EA's hands for this. If you pre-order this game and you've only got one or two good balanced maps and everything else is just kind of filler or not balanced properly, that could be a serious problem. Now, with that said, I'm going to say that I was actually expecting to complain a lot more about this game than I am. The maps being the biggest issue, the potential map design in the future being a problem, is the biggest problem I can foresee. And in the grand scheme of things, that's actually not that big of a problem. Now, in terms of, like, should you buy this game versus another game, maybe that's kind of a problem. But in terms of a Battlefield game, I feel like I was expecting this to not nearly be as enjoyable as it ended up being. I was expecting potentially a kind of like a Battlefront problem. Battlefront was very pretty, but it was very shallow, and it did not feel like there was much teamwork or much reason to use teamwork or a big skill gap for players. I was expecting the same issue for this. In fact, honestly, I feel kind of like Battlefield 4 had the same problem that Battlefront did. I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack for that, but honestly, like, I didn't feel like there was that much of a skill gap for Battlefield 4. As soon as you got that FLIR sight, the FLIR sights were so painfully overpowered. Those themselves, in my opinion, killed the skill gap significantly. Having all of these, having it so there's only one class that has a scope in Battlefield 1, I think really changes a lot. Now, the only other thing that I'm worried about is right now there's not that many unlocks, and there's no ability to customize your weapons. If you start being able to unlock scopes somehow for assault class weapons and stuff like that, that could potentially be a problem. In fact, it was kind of funny. I found this one weapon that had essentially a red dot sight on it. I'm pretty sure that the red dot site that they had, this is why I loved making fun of all those videos, making fun of it, because I knew that they were going to have to do something like that, because otherwise, people would just be like, there's no reason to unlock things if they don't have some kind of weapon upgrades for sights, and sights are just the easiest things to upgrade. Everybody just loves sights. And for an assault class weapon, there was one sight that was pretty much exactly a red dot. It was kind of like a hilarious little gimmicky red dot. It was like a piece of glass with literally a red dot like painted on it, and I was like, ha, it's literally a red dot. It's literally, I mean, I don't even think they would use that in the real World War, just because the way it would be too much to explain, but essentially the way the red dot was built on the assault rifle in this game, it wouldn't have worked in real life, just because in the same way that your scopes are not three-dimensional here. There's a 2D overlay for these scopes and stuff like that. It was the same problem with the red dot, quote unquote, that they had in here, where you're like, that would not work in real life. The only reason that works in this is because it's a computer game and you're able to have your vision like fixed perfectly. So the future of weapon unlocks and the future of map design, I think, are the biggest threats to this right now. But the game balance, the changes in how different vehicles complement one another and their strategic significance on the battlefield is really nice, and I enjoyed that a lot. The melee combat actually didn't feel overpowered. I feel like it was going to be, like the rushing and being able to stab people and stuff like that. I was afraid that was actually going to be fairly spammy, but it's not. Because the maps are so open, it's kind of hard to do that. And also, the way they made the bayonet charging makes it so you can't really like redirect yourself very easily. It's just lots of subtle things that make it a little bit harder to just spam. But I enjoyed that for the most part. And I wish they had more maps for us to try, and I wish they had more attachments for me to see. And I wish, one of the other last things that I wish they would allow a full-fledged gameplay for the rush game mode. Those are my main three caveats. The stunted rush game mode, which I feel like should be the main game mode for this game. Like, seriously, Rush was built for this game. I have never enjoyed Rush until Battlefield 1, and I actually enjoyed Rush considerably more than Conquest. I feel like that should be the one and only, maybe not the only, but definitely the poster boy mode for this game. And it wasn't. Like, there was so much missing from the Rush game mode, so many vehicles, so many things. I am really interested to see what new maps come out and how that affects gameplay. And I'm really interested to see what new weapons come out and what new attachments come out and how that affects gameplay. Because right now, for this map, everyone's using Scout for good reason. And I'm not sure if that's a balance issue or a map issue, or if it's exactly how it should be, where people, obviously Scout makes more sense on this map, but maybe in a new map, Assault will make more sense, which I think that's okay. But if class usage is really going to be that dependent on map design, then by default, map design becomes considerably more important. And if we haven't seen all the maps yet, then that means future maps could potentially be shittier. So that's it. To wrap this up and just give a TLDR, did I enjoy Battlefield 1? Yes, actually. I enjoyed it considerably. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I'm happy that I finally actually get to have hands-on with this game so I can talk about it genuinely, and not just do guesswork from the videos that get released. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. Now, that's not to say that there are not potential issues with it that I will be interested to foresee with the map design and also the different game modes and stuff like that. But I will definitely play it. Now, the price is, EA is a master at always seeming to find the most that you would ever pay for anything. The price is very high. $120 for the collector's edition, and I think what, $80 now for the standard, or the one that gets you all of the DLC, which in my opinion should be in the core game, because I guarantee you're not going to get much content if you just buy the standard one. Is this game worth that much money? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline, or even Battlefield 3 was worth the amount that they asked for them during pre-orders. That's definitely the case. Same with Titanfall. You know, I really like Titanfall. Would I spend $70 on Titanfall? Hell no. That's why I bought the game on sale like a year after it came out for $15. I would probably buy this game if I was not a YouTuber. If I was, because I'll probably end up buying this game just because I can afford it, and just because I make more money covering this game than I do spending on it. But as a consumer, as somebody who is like, should I buy this game? I would probably. It is definitely, like I said, they always pick the most money that I would ever spend on anything. I would have probably just bought, if you're the kind of person that bought the deluxe package for Battlefront, I wouldn't have done that. But if you did that, then you'd probably want to get the full version, maybe not the collector's edition, but the full version of this game. If I could say what games I think you should buy, I don't think you should buy Titanfall 2. I don't think you should have bought Battlefront. And if you didn't buy Battlefront, I would definitely spend your money on this game, because I think this game is definitely going to be probably one of the better games that EA puts out in a while. Like, honestly, I think when you look at the EA's best games, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, I really think this is the next one. Like, I think this is going to be a pretty damn good game for a while. Now, would I pay $120 for it? No. If you're low on money, I would maybe wait until a sale. Although I don't foresee this going on sale for a while, just because they're probably going to be riding this train, trying to get people to buy it, especially with the DLC and stuff like that. Because this is going to be their blockbuster. Like, this is their main bitch. So, yeah, I don't know. I would definitely wait and see what the pricing is like. Maybe for a couple of months and stuff like that. See if it goes down. See if they do a sale or anything like that. Besides that, if you are keen on buying a game like this, I would definitely not buy their other games. I would not buy Titanfall 2. I would not buy anything else from Battlefront. No more DLC from that. I don't really know what else they're coming out with, but I feel like the only game worth buying from them for a good chunk of time is going to be this one. Now, that's just comparing this game to other games that EA is releasing. I don't really know what else is coming out outside of this and outside of EA that's going to be comparable to it. I mean, as far as like Call of Duty Infinity Warfare, whatever the fuck it's called, like, honestly, I feel like those demographics are so non-crossable that it doesn't even matter. Like, the Call of Duty crowd is so dedicated, and they just come from a completely different world. Honestly, I feel like Call of Duty people aren't necessarily going to like this. And I think that's actually kind of a good thing. I feel like Battlefield is working harder to build a niche for itself and not compete directly with Call of Duty. Like, it wants to be different. It wants to be its own thing. It doesn't want to be a Call of Duty clone. It wants to be something better, more unique. They don't want to follow in Activision's footsteps. They want Activision to follow in their footsteps. And I think that's cool. I like that. That's good. And that's what I'm actually really happy about that, because I feel like that's what Battlefield 1 is. I think Battlefield 1 is more like, fuck you, we're going to do something completely different. We're tired of, like, essentially creating a shitty esports, like, contender half-assed thing, even though it's not. You know, like Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, they felt so spammy. They felt kind of like Call of Duty, except with larger maps and stuff like that. Or at least I should say, they felt a lot more like Call of Duty and a lot more like mainstream shooters than this does. This feels way different. It feels way more strategic. It feels way more intelligent. It feels way more unique. And unique in a lot of really cool ways. Like, the tank combat actually kind of feels like some of the best tank combat that's been around, like War Thunder Ground Forces. Everybody loves War Thunder Ground Forces. The tank combat in this actually feels like War Thunder Ground Forces. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I honestly feel like it was. But that's great because, I mean, I'm not a huge War Thunder Ground Forces fan, but I'll be damned if I don't think that War Thunder Ground Forces tank combat is better than Battlefield 4's and Battlefield 3's tank combat. And to see them kind of taking a fucking what is the word, influence from that is awesome. It's good to finally see influence not coming from just the shooter crowd. It's good to see influence coming, like, seriously. In fact, I should honestly just say that if you are a War Thunder Ground Forces fan, or if you are a World of Tanks fan and stuff like that, I honestly think you're gonna like this game a fuck ton. Seriously, like, really. Now, as far as like War Thunder aircraft and stuff like that and Rise of Flight, I wouldn't say their aircraft gameplay is as good, but the tank gameplay is definitely considerably different. The aircraft gameplay feels honestly pretty similar to other Battlefield games, but I actually like the aircraft gameplay in other Battlefield games, so that's no problem with me. The tank gameplay, God, it's so good. So good. And the infantry, and I really, you know what, that might be a reason. I think maybe they really are trying to appeal to the tank crowd. That actually makes a lot more sense to me. That could be why the infantry definitely feel more like a supporting role to the tanks now, and that's awesome. That's how it should be. That really is how it should be. And hopefully they stick with that, and hopefully the tank crowd is going to really enjoy playing this game, and hopefully the Battlefield crowd is still going to enjoy playing this game, because they're just going to be able to support the tanks, and the tanks are going to have to support the infantry. Like, it really is a hand-in-hand thing. It feels like kind of two completely different player groups finally coming together in the same game at the same time, and they're going to actually be able to play together in a way that's fun and not feel like they're just getting slaughtered or one person has an advantage. Like, it really does feel balanced and fun in that way. All right, well, that's it. 30-minute rant. Let me know how you guys feel about this. I'll definitely be playing more of it. I'm probably going to buy it just because I need to cover it. It's a shame because I was actually thinking about buying Titanfall 2, but looking at Titanfall 2, it literally looks, it just copy and pasted Titanfall 1. If there's ever a game to actually cover on my channel that's worth covering, I would say it's probably this one. I was actually potentially not going to buy it if it was too similar to Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, because I can't fucking stand those games. But this game, it actually feels pretty good. I could see my community hosting a hardcore Rush server on this, and that going over really well. I don't really think we're probably going to host for Conquest, but for Rush, fuck yeah, dude. I could host Rush all day. Now, I hope EA doesn't like nerf us and we never get to play with aircraft or armored trains because we're a Rush hardcore community, but I mean, if they do that, that'll be kind of a shame. But that's definitely how I feel about it. So yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks so much. Let me know in the comments, and then I'll talk to you guys next time. Probably gonna do a stream today. And yeah. Okay. All right. Peace.